called it. We're going to Battlefield of Eternity, LFM, the one who's going to select it and bring us to it. Is there a world where that happens?
Well, here's the thing to consider. If I'm first pick of No Tomorrow, do I ban Hanzo, expect a Medivh Maiev ban, and then pick up Phoenix or vice versa? But then you let through the potential Maiev Medivh, which so far has been pretty consistent in terms of our bans. But yeah, it's hard to kind of articulate where it kind of goes, right? I watched Europe. They obviously have a little bit different priority over the Medivh, Maiev, things like that. So you kind of wonder, will some of that shift over here to the North American region? So it's kind of, I see it in one region. I can see the thought process of it. We're still within what we're playing here in North America, which is at this point pretty strong. So it's a matter of, do we see any shift to try and play some mind games in the draft?
I always like when we do, you know, taking, I don't want to say a page out of other regions' notebooks, because I feel like that's just more draft diversity and kind of strategy than it is like a regional trend. But I feel like
nobody
I would like
likes
to see
a copy pasta.
Yeah, nobody likes a copy pasta. Not looking at you, chat. Actually, we are definitely looking at you, chat.
You know, the first time, if you ever try slam me.
Are we talking at Western Clash? I don't know.
Oh, that did happen.
Yeah, when I gave the old Shadow Charge throw. Is that what you're trying to refer to here?
No, it's some Hulk reference or something.
Are you Hulkstering again? Here we are, game 4 here between LFM and No Tomorrow. Must win on Battlefield. Map selection for LFM. We have cleared the favorite battlegrounds of both sides.
It was last game we saw the Li Ming ban, right?
We did in the second ban phase towards the Li Ming. Got to be asking, was it worth? I feel like the answer was no.
But on this, okay, so Sky Temple, I wouldn't really say, all right, Li Ming Battleground, right?
But Battlefield
of Eternity, she raises in priority a little bit. So there's a Garrosh ban. Again, playing around the Medivh Maiev. But again, here's where the interesting thing comes in. If you expect a Medivh Maiev, you pick up Medivh Maiev, whoever makes it through. The other team's unlikely to pick up Hanzo and Phoenix. So with No Tomorrow in their second portion, they could get the early Medivh Maiev and then take whichever's left over between the Phoenix and the Hanzo. I wonder if they're going to make that play.
We'll find out. It all hinges here on No Tomorrow. Hanzo, Phoenix.
Okay, so if you go Hanzo, yeah, okay, but I was going to say, if you go Hanzo, would the other team be willing to commit to a Phoenix Maiev?
Yes, the answer is, all iterations of the questions you've asked, I will answer you. I think LFM wins their draft every time out of this trade. I feel like No Tomorrow, if you see a Hanzo and a Phoenix picked up here, I just go, where are you going to make up for this race other than all-in diving? And that's going to be paired with a Garrosh, or not a Garrosh, excuse me, a Genji, and then what? And there are enough tools to be able to deter that against the siege capabilities. Can you think of that race, J-How? Can you think of that poke damage?
There is no world where Hanzo isn't picked up here. There's absolutely no world.
You say that.
And if that happens,
please say
I expect a tweet from Crowan.
Oh.
For all the reasons. It'll probably take him like one tweet. Like, I don't even know if you were be like, why would you pick Hanzo on Battlefield of Eternity? Your answer should just be Hanzo.
Hanzo.
Like, there's no other description needed.
I'll be honest, there's nothing I hate losing with more in Hero League than Hanzo on BOE. Because I feel like I can win the game by myself. Like, if I lose this game, that's on me.
I do wonder, though, kind of what we saw. We've seen it a couple of times now. Heroes Hearth did it. Simplicity almost got away with it. There's the Phoenix. Of a double support Hanzo on this battleground. If you're afraid that, you know, something's going to happen, you've got the Maiev there, you got Phoenix, you're afraid you're going to lose, but you can win out with a poke Hanzo as long as you keep everybody alive. Something to consider. I'm not necessarily advocating for it, but...
I mean, it's held its own. You're right. It's shown here in North America, and it's done well, is probably the best way to put it. I don't want to say it's done great, but out of all the double supports, this is the time, the place, and the situation to kind of bring it out.
Now that we're looking at this, Stukov, obviously you've already picked up Malfear, and it's highly unlikely you'll go Stukov. No Tomorrow, playing into that Maiev pull into a Blaze charge into a Lurking Arm. That is a terrifying front line. And you talk about Phoenix getting extra damage against slow targets. Yeah, the Stukov ban, I love that ban here.
Or frontline. I guess frontline bans actually don't work that well for No Tomorrow, just because they've already banned out the Garrosh on the one side, and if you wanted to look for the choke, it's going to be a setback.
Do you remember that number I hit you with on Tyrael on Battlefield of Eternity? It was somewhere around, I think it was somewhere around like the 60 to 65% win rate range, which is by far his best. It might have actually been a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But Tyrael on this Battleground does really well. Vicky's most played hero, Tyrael. I think this is one of those places you go up against the Maiev, you can Eldruin's out, you have that protection. But I think because Blaze is on the other side, I need some type of frontline protection. One hero that worked against LFM was an Arthas when they went the Artana style. I'm not necessarily saying Arthas, but I feel you need some type of similar frontline control if you go into the Tyrael.
No, I agree. I think it's going to be necessary from No Tomorrow as well, or from them as well.
Like if you're not going double support, I feel double warrior pretty much has to be here. And if not Dahaka, double warrior either.
What if they... Just trying to figure out if we don't see either one of those, even though I do agree with you. Like, is there any element where this gets a little bit hairy purely on T is what I'm wondering. But because we got the Hanzo, I feel like that can't be the case because now we know we got T as an option within the Hanzo if needed.
They could go a Greymane to put... They go Sonya, not the frontline control that I thought. It gives them a lot of control in terms of Shrine, or excuse me, Punisher, Shrine, whatever. It's a Immortal clear. Obviously, Hanzo does really well there. But again, I think if you're going that, your CC is pretty much lacking. Now, if I'm on the side of No Tomorrow, if I feel, that, and again, the Maiev, I take it back, they can't at this point. I was going to say a Tracer would work really well against this, but all that damage in the front line already picked up.
You could be looking for that for LFM. Tracer last pick wouldn't be terrible. It's not necessarily the go-to playstyle that we see from them, but I'm just saying, you know, it is one of those kind of, with the Tyrael Malfurion picked up, Hanzo, it's a lot of poke, a lot of kind of, you know, prodding. But it helps when it comes to that race as well. Diablo Rhaegar. Now Tracer is looking like a no-no with that Diablo picked up by No Tomorrow.
I mean, if you put Draded back onto that Hanzo, you could easily go Li Ming into this composition, and I think you'd feel pretty much okay with it.
Into the on the side of LFM, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just... I'm okay with it when I look at the map. I'm not okay with them when I look at my opponents. Diablo, Maiev, Blaze, all pretty like tanky, able to keep themselves alive. It's still yet to be determined, but right now, as it currently stands, Phoenix is hard to kill from what we've seen. He is not the easiest glass cannon, even though he is sitting at that low HP, high shielding. And it just kind of goes, where are you going to find that reset, LFM?
If we're going down that route, I mean, you could always go Greymane. If T is going to play Hanzo, you could put Draded back on a Greymane. Obviously, Greymane's fallen off quite a bit with some of the other assassins that have kind of rose to priority, especially with Phoenix being up there. So, again, they go the Li Ming route. They go with what they know and put Draded back over onto that Hanzo, which has been a very successful hero for him. And then T, a familiar Li Ming pickup. Again, Battleground, not the worst. Against the enemy opponent, maybe not the best. We do have the potential that if Maiev comes in, you just kind of teleport away if you're Li Ming to make sure you don't get tethered, things like that. But in terms of race, the Hanzo Li Ming is pretty terrifying.
It's just whether or not, for me, it all comes down, No Tomorrow, when they hit their initiations, starting the first Immortal, do they, number one, initiate with multiple CCs at the same time? If they have a Maiev Diablo together, probably somebody going to be dying on the side of LFM. And if that happens, I feel like this comp is terrifying. And No Tomorrow, they can bring a lot of skirmishing, they can bring a lot of fight, and they can get a lot of kills around the Immortal to where they kind of look at the Hanzo race and go, we don't really care, you're dead, right? And then stall that out until you get to even footing in the late game, and then you find yourself, you know, able to make that happen. But if you don't succeed in any of those areas, the Hanzo race, the lack of wave clear compared to your opponents, and more importantly, the insane amount of race and poke that you have between that Li Ming and that Hanzo, I just, with how much momentum we have weighing on the side of LFM, I'm suddenly going, though I normally don't feel like I say this too often, I feel like I'm on their side.
Seems good right now. Again, the frontline protection, I couldn't agree with you more on the Diablo, Maiev. You get caught in that mess, you might be Tyrael, you better hope that Eldruin's is already out before you get blown up, right? Yeah. Because the likelihood of making it out of there, I mean, obviously you'll have Nature's Cure from Malfurion to maybe save against one of those stuns, but a Blaze kind of added on top of that. It is a terrifying prospect to be a Sonya against this composition.
but it was volunteered into on the draft for LFM. Swabs by no means was pressured in the draft onto that side lane. It's not a hero that we typically look at and go, oh, the race capabilities. I mean, Sonya's pretty good for the offlaners in the fact that she has some of the higher damage output, but by no means is she a racing hero.
The protection is going to be here. Sonya going into the block, which will help against Phoenix auto attacks, although depending on which auto attack could come out much quicker than the other.
Full tether build so far here from Maev. Not going with those splashing autos.
They're sending Hanzo, so we have a 2-3 split here for LFM, which I don't know how I feel about Hanzo being the one in the top lane.
I completely agree with you because Li Ming is not going to be able to get the clear within the 3-2 the way that they want.
Yeah.
But I think the 3-2 split is a legendary call from LFM. Just mainly because I don't think that Li Ming is going to get the clear fast enough and that they might need the Hanzo and that the siege potential of the Li Ming off on the side, constantly throwing orbs. She has better... Hanzo has better siege in this type of situation, defense against the siege, excuse me, and then Li Ming has better siege up in the top lane because she doesn't need the minions to get to that poke prod. So I agree with you, but I will say huge respects to LFM to run this 3-2 split here. Not something I thought that we would see kind of identified from them, but Maev made the rotation up, and we'll see if it gets a cost or it comes at a cost at all.
They're rotating up. I think that Draded and team are going to have to be very, very aware.
Color me impressed, Jay. How?
They got some work done.
They did, and man, it's just that this is now the second or third time that we've seen a small move from LFM where it goes, you know, they're growing as a squad, and I feel like anytime we get that to where you can immediately look at it and be like, this is something you guys have never done, something we haven't really kind of seen from you, and it gains a success even against a team like No Tomorrow here. It's always fun to see that kind of growth and development of HGC. Either way, though, invade attempt over this now from LFM. Two-man jet propulsion.
Ooh, the feign there by Casanova. See if he blinks out. Not going to go, but now they respect the rotation potentially coming up. Li Ming, though.
It's a party in the top lane.
Yeah, Li Ming is showing bottom, and now this is everybody up top. Swabs, he's going to get caught out. Draded almost gets the takedown on the backside.
Yeah, that was an insane Stormbow use there from Draded. I thought for sure he'd be able to get the damage, but not quite there. Jin scouting, hey, can I maybe get this invade here? As they know Swabs is going to be down. Roots zoning out, but without the objective being picked up, that's going to be a little bit too early. And No Tomorrow say thank you for the free Khazra.
The amount of time that LFM committed to that, I was a bit surprised on, especially after Swabs went down. Recognizing the rotation up, I feel like that had to be a retreat. And if you wanted to re-engage, but the risk there versus the reward, very, very low on the reward side. But either way, we're 15 seconds out from our first Immortal spawn. Again, level 7 is kind of where Hanzo hits his peak. He does still have quite a bit of damage post level 4, but level 7 is where it really amps up. See how this first one plays out.
When it comes to the lanes, obviously a little bit of a slow rotation for LFM, considering they had the Tyrael Malfurion up on top, but it's not going to be too much to set them back, especially because No Tomorrow's siege is very limited. It's more about stopping LFM than it is about sieging themselves. So then it comes down to the Shaman race. The Shaman race, Sonya versus Blaze versus the 4-man collapse on the bottom half. Should be pretty even for both teams. I feel like if anybody pulled ahead, it's going to be LFM just because of the laning mismatch of the 1 versus 1 and hard to clear for the Blaze rather than the 4 versus 4 and the damage they got because of the 3-2 split before. But to be honest with you, he didn't make it look hard at all.
Blaze is pretty decent.
He's pretty good at wave clearing.
See Casanova already getting a little bit of a start on the Immortal here, but he is the playmaker there on the Maev, and Aware is very far forward. They have found themselves a Malfurion. See if they can confirm the kill. Tomster going in, trying to get that, but the Aware somehow survives Drift.
That Moonfire value, as all the members of No Tomorrow clumped up, gave him enough to get the heal and survive. LFM pushed back No Tomorrow after that initiation and still continue the race here, as it is falling now towards that 50% threshold. Casanova waiting on the side, questioning if he wants to throw out the shadow.
The poke potential on the side of LFM between that Li Ming and Hanzo is ridiculous. We'll see if they can try. I mean, those moments right there, other situations, you might be able to soak up some of those shots to kind of thwart the action, but that is impossible against this amount of poke. So LFM now on the friendly side. No Tomorrow, they're taking up a defensive stance. And, you know, this first Immortal at this phase, given the amount of shielding that LFM could potentially obtain, is pretty substantial.
LFM still poking and brought in. Hanzo still not at that 7 threshold quite yet, as Phoenix is sitting back doing work as best he can with that repeater cannon.
There we go. There's going to be the tether. There's going to be the charge. But Biggie, he's turning right around, and Jin taking so much damage on Battlefield of Eternity. One of the problems with Diablo Dreadnought is obtaining souls. He's only at 48 souls, so he's nowhere near as tanky. And you can see the race here for LFM shredding that Immortal.
First Immortal now at 50% HP for LFM. Going to be sieging to bottom. Let's see what they do decision-making wise. If they go for the double split or commit with it, they're going to commit with it. This is honestly what I would suggest, I would say is a very good call for LFM, and purely based on the fact that we see No Tomorrow has 0 defense other than, I mean, let's be real here, it's Phoenix. So with that, they can get all these initiations as you see them get right there. No Tomorrow has to dive in to get any damage on this Immortal. I have a Li Ming, a Tyrael, a Malfurion, all sitting together with that Hanzo in the bottom lane. My siege poking and prodding is phenomenal. So I'm going to make it to where it's very difficult for you to move up. And if you do, honestly, most of the time, just force that initiation. Whereas normally at a 50% shield, you would say swapping might be the safer call. LFM abusing what their composition has over that of No Tomorrow.
If they're able to take down this fort, they had to abandon the top lane sheerly out of defense as Jin eating a lot of damage, forced to back up. Now we're talking about double lanes in this, where No Tomorrow had no presence in that top lane, and now all of a sudden they're looking to rotate up. Equinox comes over, catches a little bit of that minion wave, but they've given up a lot. With this Tyrael, they're going to dive, take the rest of this wall.
But LFM might be getting a little bit too confident. They did not take out the keep front wall on bottom, which is normally what you would do in this type of call. That gives you the 10 spike right at this time frame. They're going to remain at the top half, assuming they're going to achieve the 10s while forcing the 10 or forcing the 4 immediately after. If they do that, No Tomorrow has all the time in the world to respond. So much so, look at No Tomorrow just making the rotation up, saying, wait a minute, you guys think you can make this play right now? Here's my Maiev double tether. Equinox maybe in a bad position for now. He's going to pop the passive, falling pretty low, but look at LFM moving up, end up getting the first kill and reset there. 4T, find the second one. As you see, massive damage coming out from Draded with that scattering arrow. Jay Shrite shielding doesn't last long, and the health bar even less so. Great play as they get 3 for 0 in terms of kills for LFM.
Equinox's positioning got so far forward that the minute that one reset came in, the momentum heavily picked up on the side of LFM. Now what was a little bit of a risky play ends up paying off, and Dreadnought, they've got full minion wave. They've got 10-tier advantage. They've got the Impalers behind them. This is free fort. Now they have the opportunity with the Hanzo and the Li Ming. They could potentially just siege up on that keep wall.
Yeah, we just talked about how little siege No Tomorrow has within their draft whatsoever, and LFM has a great amount of siege potential. They're going to make the rotation now. Oh, wait a minute. Nice vault from Casanova, falling very, very low. Flip over, wave of force.
Is that enough?
Not enough damage there as he gets the tap in. LFM end up holding up, but what you see them doing is making that rotation in the Shaman camp, and I was just going to say, I really don't want to see that. Take out keep front walls, that's worth it. Denying your opponent siege, that happens 3 minutes in advance, that's not what I want, LFM. They're on the same footing in 3 minutes. I want you to body while you have the advantage here, and this is, I mean, let's be also honest here, the LFM struggling within the ladder of North America. There's not many games we see them with this type of lead in this type of situation, but they back out, instead going to worry about this Immortal. And we'll see what they can make happen with it here, as it's pretty much a free halftime.
This is insane, the amount of damage between the Li Ming and the Hanzo. Just instantly take it down. That is about 11.4K damage that just got ripped apart, and they feel so confident in it that they're actually going to come over for the Shaman camp because they see so many members of No Tomorrow. They desperately need level 10. They desperately need to clear the camps, and now that opens up a small opportunity for them to get some damage in. But for No Tomorrow, Dreadnought, things are getting dire because now they're looking to potentially take a fight at level 10, if not behind the Immortal after this kicks off.
Yeah, and it looks like they're going to try and maybe get that all in, but nobody on the side of LFM is willing to commit to the Immortal. 288 damage remains. Equinox, 3-man jet propulsion, going to be thrown down. Hits with the oil and the fire, using his level 1. But who will be the bold ranger? Somehow I have a feeling it's going to be Hanzo, but you know, No Tomorrow, they're going to keep sticking around this thing and
Jin's
trying to zone.
Jin's in the bush. There goes the engage.
1 Eldruin's all as it takes.
Here comes the APOC there. It's going to go. Casanova receives the Ancestral, but the Roots in return. It forces out the Nature's Cure onto Diablo. He's running for his life. Shrite, however, returning damage, but it's not enough. The big Dragon Zero and Draded, Trumming in, trying to make the plays. Equinox, he's surviving, and now all of a sudden Li Ming has gone down.
Casanova is doing so much work with his Fan of Knives. That's like the third 3-man that I feel like he's hit in a row, but there goes Swaps with that Whirlwind after 3 members already going to be dropping. Jay Shrite trying to kite out, using that shield and getting the heal from Thompson. Eldruin thrown down, warp out. He will survive, but this is going to be one beefy Immortal.
No Tomorrow with APOC down, you kind of wondered, all right, do we have the opportunity to come through, try and get that big flank behind the Immortal? But at this point, because that fort is already down, because you're so far behind, we do see Containment Disc was picked up. That's going to be used to try and thwart the Sanctification from Tyrael to make sure that you do not allow that protection. We'll see how that comes into play here. This is a tough spot right now. No Tomorrow feels like a keep might be a given, but the position of Diablo there at the top just sniffed out by the Aware with that Moonfire.
Yeah, and if they get the 13s, they'll look to try and bait this fight. Casanova is desperate here. He's trying to force onto the backline. LFM just needs to stick together, and they know they're going to be fine. Nice route forcing out the vault. No track down quite yet. Is 13 yet to be achieved, but that turret will put them over the edge here. LFM continue their siege.
The Immortal shielding at about 50%. They keep an eye on the Diablo up at the top. Casanova again looking for an opportunity. There's going to be a multi-person tether. They go in. Sanctification has gone down, though. The bunker in return on the side of No Tomorrow. Got to keep a few people alive, but there's going to be a Dragon Arrow as an instant follow-up. Containment Disc was used on the front line. They're looking for more.
Equinox trying to get the kite out after that APOC combo goes on to Aware. Swap's falling low, but the heals and the Whirlwind will keep him up. Now Jin has to use that Shadow Charge just to try and survive. Overpower over, but there's reset. 1, 2, 3, 4. Given over to LFM, and with that, the Immortals still surviving in a 3-level lead. LFM Esports will, in fact, be able to take this series 3-1 over No Tomorrow, and more importantly, get themselves their second win at HGC North America.
It's been a long time coming for this team. Not since week 2 have they been able to pick up a victory, and that was over Galeforce. And now here we go. All the way in April, they have shown the signs of life, signs of progress that we saw throughout this series. It was against No Tomorrow, but when, again, you do that against anybody, show that type of discipline, that type of control over certain battlegrounds, it doesn't matter if you're going up against No Tomorrow or Tempo Storm. When you can pull things like that off against a team, it obviously shows clear signs of progress. Things worked out really well in this game. T there, I think 7 kills. He got a little bit of value out of that leading that game.
Yeah.